And our next speaker is Mr. Kim Namwoo. Good afternoon. It's later in the afternoon for you now, right? Kim, Mr. Namwoo. Oh, now we got the unmute your yeah.
Right.
And Namwoo, you are the MES manager at Samsung Biologics in Korea, South Korea.
Yes, I am.
And so you're calling us from South Korea, I suppose, from not so.
I'm sorry, I'm Samsung Biologics IT.
Yes, very good. And your topic today is MES implementation project at Samsung Biologics. So you
Yes,
tell us a
it is.
little bit about your project at Samsung.
Right, yeah, I'm gonna present that.
All right, so
let's get started. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Well, all right, perfect. Hi everyone, I'm Namwoo from Samsung Biologics IT, and I'm gonna present our MES implementation project case study today. Even if we cannot meet and discuss in person at this Pharma MES Asia today, though, I hope my presentation can help some of you in your project. Also, hope Pharma MES to put us together in person next year. All right, let's get started. This is the agenda of mine for today. I'll get my presentation started with my introduction, and the primary strategies we applied in our project and helped us break through obstacles will be followed. I'll finish my presentation with the feedbacks we got from our end users recently. This is me. I'm a senior specialist at Samsung Biologics IT and in charge of MES. I carried out MES implementation project for weighing and dispensing operation. And in that project, I was responsible for project timeline management, as is practice analysis, design, implementation, and validation. For now, that project was completed, and I'm running the system we implemented for the operation, weighing and dispensing. Also, currently, I'm conducting a new project that is transferring equipment paper logbook to electronic logbook through the MES. Prior to getting started, I would like you to see this first. Here's the reason why we had to introduce MES. And if you have MES in your plant, I'm of the opinion that you might have introduced the system because of this. As you can see here are a number of data integrity related warning letters are getting increased. Also, as a CMO, our potential clients are wondering whether our operations are automated or not, especially about weighing and dispensing operation. Some of you might have thought I'm kind of a sales manager from MES solution provider, maybe, and being here to sell the solution, but actually I'm not, you know. Even I'm not a sales manager from the MES solution company. I just want you to be aware how important the MES is. As you can see here, it is so obvious that considering and introducing the MES is not an optional anymore. Today, I'm gonna present MES implementation strategy that I and my team have been through in our project. We got weighing and dispensing operation, the MES recently, and the duration of that MES introducing project was only 6 months. In 21 CFR Part 11 and Game 5, the things that we had to do in order to meet regulatory and guidance are clearly described. So I'm not gonna repeat it today, since all of us already know what they are saying and enforcing us. Instead, I'm gonna present the strategies and the approaches that we had to take and prepare in our project. My presentation is composed of strategies for each project phases, and there are 4 phases in my presentation. I'll get started what we did on the project project preparation phase and why we didn't do. Also, implementation approach will be followed. After then, test and validation strategies are going to be explained. Let's get started from the preparation of the project phase. I believe that our projects went more smoothly because we prepared the things that listed up on the screen. I'm not saying the project was easy for us, but I'm convinced that it could have been harder than it was if we didn't set these things on the screen. First of all, we created an agreement for the customization level based on VOCs to meet the end user's expectation. Actually, I just said we created it to meet end user's expectation, but actually it was to handle and manage their expectation. When someone who is not a system person heard that their operation would be automated by introducing a system, they will just picture a single button. In their imagination, every operation goes well by pushing that single button. So all they had to do in order to operate is pushing that single button in there. This is the reason why we had to create an agreement for their VOCs at the beginning of the project. Like as all we may already know, we knew the system we were gonna introduce was not like end user's imagination. I mean, the single button. And none of the system can satisfy that single button as well. We just gathered what end users want and prioritized them with end users, and then elaborated them that we were gonna implement from the top to the middle of the list, and the rest of them would be implemented and applied on the system after go live. But we wouldn't forget about it. Since we had to carry out the project for insufficient time, we were not able to set all the requirements and had to make an agreement with end users to handle and manage their expectation. Second of all, we shared benefit that the system was gonna bring to the end users. Usually, a MES is introducing gradually, like from specific operation. In our case, it was bringing specific operation to every operations at the shop floor. Thus, until get all the operations, the MES or full automated functionalities, this partially implemented system sometimes looks like causing specific end users inconvenience. Since while newly and partially adopted system is bringing a lot of benefit to main end users group, the other people needs to prepare the data or other things on the system for an automated operation. And usually this data preparation is not the thing that they used to do before introducing a system. So sharing the benefit that they can get after having full automated system for all of the operations at the shop floor instead of specific operations can make them patient until we introduce the MES to all of the operations. We approach it in two ways for this. One of them was issues prevention, and the other was work efficiency. We just gathered all the issues from the shop floor and showed them how many issues that were bothering them would be prevented with the system. It was actually almost after go live of the system. Yeah, there are no more procedural and data integrity related issues at weighing and dispensing operations so far. And we listed up every single unit task in the operation with the time duration that the task take. On that list, we revealed expected time duration for each task with the system after go live of it. Also, time duration got reduced after go live of the system, and it means effectiveness of the work got better. These benefits that is brought by the system can get people understood why they have to introduce the MES and why they need to wait until getting all of the operations system. Third of all, we define clear roles and responsibilities. Clear definition for roles and responsibilities means that every right people will be at the project every right time, except people from project owning department in the project organization. The other people may have their own work at their own department, and it was possible they cannot afford being involved in the project when they have to be. So we had defined it with them and their leads. So this clear and obvious definition of roles and responsibilities helped us to get the right people at the right time. Last one. It was about hotline between us and solution provider. As you may already know, none of the system is perfect. I'm not blaming on a solution provider. I just want to say none of the system can be perfect because of their complexity and the degree of coupling between modules in them. Due to this, every solutions have their known and unknown issues. Known one is easy to get, but the unknown ones are impossible to prepare in advance because we had no idea what kind of issues are waiting for us in the near future. Because of it, we set the hotline to reach the solution as soon as possible when we meet an issue. If an issue is coming while projects, how immediately we can handle them is important than any other things. And it was the reason we set up hotline. About the members of this hotline committee, the higher the better. From our side, our project lead and CIO were in this committee, and in solution provider side, head of their technology and marketing were there. With this upper management committee, we were able to get the fast answer and solution for the issues we met. Since we were able to exclude unnecessary and inefficient discussion to reach the solution. Implementation phase. When we were implementing a system, we didn't just start to design based on the end user's requirements, since we all knew that we and end users are not on the same page for each requirement. In our life, actually, it is hard to think a listener exactly understanding what a talker is saying. It applied on the work as well. A system person cannot understand exactly what not a system person is saying for their requirements. Hence, we didn't just listen to end users' requirements and voices. Instead, we moved to the shop floor and got started to analyze what they were saying. We stayed there for sufficient time through monitoring what they are doing actually at the shop floor. And through this, we could understand why they got us that kinds of specific requirements, why they needed it, and how we would implement it to satisfy them. I know that through this gray area of the communication between us and end users were gone. Everything got clear after doing this, and now I can say IT system, especially manufacturing direct impact system like the MES, monitoring shop floor in person for sufficient time is highly recommended, I think. This backbone made up our further tasks like URS, analysis, risk assessment, design review, and implementation as well. Now let's talk about the test phase. I believe this phase was the phase that we had to concentrate more than implementation phase to not overshoot not overshoot obvious, potential, and hidden risk. After test phase, since GMP validation is getting started, and an issue at GMP validation would be time-consuming work with many relevant people like computerized system validation team and quality team. So this is why we wanted to find out all of the problems at this phase in advanced. Like you guys, we knew that we have a large number of business cases happening at the shop floor, and none of us can define entire scenarios regarding that is going on at the shop floor exactly. We needed to consider all the possibility of business cases, and but by ourselves, we couldn't afford it. Hence, we generated integration test scenarios with our very experienced operators to discover all of the things happening there shop floor. Thanks to them, we could generate nice scenarios and fill out most of gray area of the shop floor. However, we and our operators both agreed that these integration test scenarios couldn't cover all of the operations, like business cases that is happening extremely rarely since they are not common and regular operation. Also, even the operators group couldn't recognize all the exceptional business cases when we are generating the scenarios. We admitted that not all the gray area of business practices got cleared. We moved to the shop floor again in order to get unpredictable area predictable. At the shop floor, we just did everything on the system what operators were doing at there. We called it simulation test because we just simulated the things at the shop floor on the system. The result was successful. After allocating sufficient time for the simulation test, we just discovered many of unseen operation and got convinced to move further. Thanks to this simulation test, we were able to be aware that most of unpredictable business practices got clear, and even if there would be remain some, they wouldn't be major one or critical one after. Since we carried out aforementioned multiple tests and some of them even were conducted on the shop floor, we were able to get rid of potential functional issues and unpredictable business practice area. After removing them at the validation phase, we needed to consider about environmental setting issues that can come while validation phase. Since plenty of manual work were required in order to migrate our system to new environment, there was a possibility that we could omit or misconfigure any of them, and they would be able to cause malfunction of the system while validation. And as mentioned earlier, an issue like malfunction of the system that we can face while GMP validation is kind of highly time-consuming work and unwanted work. So for these reasons, we made validation duplicated environment for a dry run prior to the conduction of the IRBs. Normally, pharmaceutical systems are running 3 kinds of servers at least. Developing, validation, and productions are there. We decided to have one more, and we called it as test server. Everything in the test server, including systematic objects and configurations and the server side of the things, had to be identical with validation server, because the purpose of this environment was discovering environmental hidden issues. Through carrying out a dry run on the server in advance, we figured out most of environmental unseen and hidden issues there. There was one thing we did for the validation phase. It is about scheduling. Since we did not have sufficient time for the project, as I mentioned earlier, we had to make the most out of the time we had. Usually, validation of the system introduction consists of multiple IOVs, and each IOVs are put on a work breakdown structure serially. However, because of aforementioned insufficient time for us, we made a decision to not wait for the previous IOV to finish. With a computerized system validation team and a quality team, we defined which task of each IOVs could be a kind of critical path of the validation. And we scheduled them based on this defined critical paths. For example, most of IOV's execution tasks were waiting for previous IOV's report approval. It means most of IOV's protocol generation and its approval were conducted simultaneously with the previous IOV's execution and its report approval. Through this, we were able to meet our project timeline. It was extremely insufficient. Here are the feedbacks from our end users. This project was not an easy one for every members of the project, but we did break through all the risk and every obstacles as one team. We built up the system and got our operation automated together. The aforementioned benefits at the beginning of this presentation went to the end users, and I know how satisfied they are with the system we implemented. They keep saying data integrity related issues and deviations that were bothering them before without the system are gone. And also going back to the operation that was operated without the system in the past, they cannot imagine it anymore. All right, this is it. This is all I have prepared for today, and thank you for paying attention for this. If you guys have any questions, just shoot it.
Thank you, Namwoo.
Thank you.
For your presentation. We have some questions from the floor. First one from Niu Chao Yang. He says, could you give an example where an original system requirement was modified significantly after a shop floor visit to better understand justifications and reasons for requests?
Yeah. Actually, the reason why we decided to move to the shop floor is almost of us was IT person, So actually, to understand what they are saying and what they want, without seeing shop floor and without seeing operation, with only texture and letters on the screen, actually it is impossible to understand what they really want to implement. So it was the decision from my team, and there was no reason not to move to the shop floor.
Right. Do you have any specific ones? I guess, like any specific requirement where that might have changed? Yeah.
Well, actually, it is actually literally, it is so specific. So when we moved to there, actually in variant dispensing area, there is kind of returning process after completion of dispensing operation. Sometime if they got some kind of problem on their dispense container, they return them to the inventory. Actually, in that process, we already knew about that kind of process is there, but after seeing the shop floor in person, we saw that they are doing that in many ways. After dispensing, they can return it. While dispensing operation, they can return it. After getting started but not started, they can return that dispatch container as well. Like this. Actually, before getting shop floor in person, we didn't see that business practices like that. So after moving forward to shop floor, we realized that hidden process like that returning process will be there more.
Let's see. Another question from Sudhir Kumar. What kind of challenges did you face when performing MES validation?
In validation, actually, everything in validation phase is challenge, you know. validation protocol and getting approval from QA and execution of that approved protocol. Actually, I just want to say the time we have, and I repeat, insufficient time for the validation and implementation and design or the challenge like other phases. So we had to rush and we had to satisfy all the timeline we have. So explanation to computerized system validation team and QA team and end users. Actually, to do every aforementioned thing, the time was not sufficient for us. So I can say the time we had was the most of challenge we had.
Right. And that sounds to me like the challenge as well is on experience. Were your stakeholders experienced with implementing MES previously? Obviously, this might have been the first time for Samsung, but what about for your stakeholders?
Our stakeholders was sensitive about the issues we met. As I mentioned, beginning of this presentation, every solution has known and unknown issues. If we meet unknown issues while validation phase, actually figuring out how to handle them is important than any other things. So when we met core issue, we cannot customize. And then our stakeholders and steering committee was wondering we can handle them, and is there any kind of workaround? So the hotline that I mentioned earlier was helped us to break through that kind of obstacles.
I see. I don't know if this is the right. Oh, there's a couple more questions. But I'm not sure if this is the right question to be asked here. But Kishore was asking what is a duplicated server, and does this duplicated server require to be validated?
All right. Actually, before getting started, execution of validation as per our SOPs, we usually run a dry run as per that protocol on another server, unlike validation, because we cannot approach that validated server for the test. So we just made validation exactly duplicated server, and it is not kind of GMP server, so we can do all of the things on that server. So we just conduct dry run. Dry run is kind of tests as per the protocol that we're gonna do at the validation. So it's kind of pre validation, and we did it on this validation duplicated server. We called it test server. So when we are doing that, we can find any kind of environmental setting issues or kind of systematic objects related issues in advance. That was the reason why we.
All right. Right. So basically, you mean that you guys set up a validation environment on a separate server.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is standard CSV approach. That is. Okay. Just maybe we have time for just one more question.
Right.
So, did you use a OTS process simulator to simulate temperature, time, production process changes?
Actually, I'm not familiar with AOTS something. So could you please explain about that AOTS?
OTS process simulator, or was it done? So basically, they asked whether you simulated temperature, time, things like that during your testing phase.
Well, actually, as I told you, I'm not familiar with that AOT concept, but we tested all of the things in the shuttle. So
Right.
so,
So
yeah,
was it like fully integrated with the instrumentation, or was it simulated with the instruments? Was the instrument simulated? Because I think that's the question from the audience.
actually, I'm not sure I'm getting the question
The
exactly or
question,
not.
yeah. No worries, no problem. Okay, let's see. Operator training system. Well, basically, I think because of the inch of time, maybe we'll come to that question a little bit later, or we can have the audience directly ask
All
you
right,
the question. Yeah,
all right, good,
yeah.
perfect.
Then maybe you can get more clarity. Right. So, thank you, Namwoo, for your time. I
Thank
bid you a
you.
very good afternoon and hope you keep safe. And
All right,
very interesting presentation from you.
all right,
All the
thank you.
best. Looking forward to interacting with you in the future.
Next year in person. Thank
Yeah,
you.
definitely.
Good afternoon.
Take care.